What's up, guys? Welcome back to Money So Tasty. Let's all get a taste of capital. In our last episode, we did a little unboxing of this item, a gift from the CFA Institute. You will get it when you become the CFA charter holder. It's sort of nice to have something back finally from them, right after you have put thousands of dollars towards them. So go ahead, check it out. I'll put a link probably around here. Go check it out. In our last video, we also mentioned the two biggest traps or pitfalls relating to CFA. We also mentioned out of 200 people who want to become CFA charter holders, how many will actually become CFA charter holders. So go check it out later. Now, in this episode, we are going to talk about CFA reforms. That's right. So CFA, a lot of fellows probably noticed, is going through a major reform right now. It's probably the most dramatic reforms that I've seen in the last 5 to 10 years since when I started the CFA journey, became CFA charter holder, and started teaching to many students over the last couple of years. So many people probably noticed, number one, they are going towards computer-based testing, or CBT. So basically, instead of doing exams on the paper, you're going to be doing exams on the computers. Very similar to IELTS and TOEFL, for those of you familiar with those language testing programs. So is that going to be the future of CFA, and how you can be prepared for that? Number two, because of COVID-19, they are postponing the exam originally scheduled for June. So when are they postponing those exams to? And when you finally take those postponed exams, are you going to be tested on what you actually have studied? In other words, is there going to be a change in curriculum in 2020 and 2021? And number three is basically we'll talk about what is the future of CFA now that they are going through those so many changes. Is CFA still going to be as respected and as valuable in the future? Now, at the end of this video, we'll also share with you, as a result of those changes, how it could affect you in 5 ways, the so-called 5 shocks that you'll probably get because of those changes, and how you can start prepare yourself early on so you don't have to fight an uphill battle. Now, if this is your first time to our channel, this channel is all about sharing on your journey to financial freedom, what are the money-making and investing mindset you need to have, and what are the common pitfalls and traps that you want to avoid. If you want to grow financially free with us naturally, then make sure you subscribe to this channel, give this video a thumbs up, and open your notifications so you will never miss another pie in the sky. So first thing, let's talk about the CFA exam being postponed because of COVID-19. Now, originally we know CFA level 1 is offered twice a year, right, in June and December. CFA level 2 and 3 exam is only offered once a year in June. So this year in June 2020, originally there is level 1 exam, level 2 exam, level 3 exam. They are all going to be postponed to December. So far, the December exam looks pretty good as long as there isn't a second major wave of COVID-19. Now, what about next year? So starting next year in 2021, level 2 and level 3 exam are still going to be the same. They're going to be offered in June. So the next exam will be June 2021. Now, level 1 is where most of the reform is going to happen. One, they're going to do a computer-based testing with level 1. With computer-based testing, they are able to offer it 4 times a year. Now, they didn't disclose the exact dates of those 4 times of exam, but with some calculations and deductions, we're able to find out. It's basically starting in 2021, they're going to offer in February, May, August, and November. So each one being about 3 months apart. Now that's very important because each time a person fails a level 1 exam, he or she has to wait 6 months to take it. So if you fail in February, for example, you have to retake it in August. If you fail in May, you have to retake it in November. You have to skip 1 exam. Now let's take a step back for a second and think about, why are they doing this? Why are they going through such major changes and reforms and almost disrupting a lot of test takers? We've been getting a lot of questions from students. They're saying, what's going on? Why are they doing this? All right, so CFA Institute actually gave out 3 official reasons why they're doing this. Number 1 is they actually want to increase the competitiveness or enhance the competitiveness of test takers. They're saying currently in this world it's more digitalized, many people are using computers, so it makes sense to have people taking the test on computers as well. What do you think of that reason? Leave your comments below. Now, the second reason they give out is they want to make sure the exam is more available to everyone. They want to make the scheduling easier because many people have complained in the past, just giving out one date or 2 dates in a year is not enough, right? It often conflicts with other major life events. So with this, now they can offer 4 times, and each time they actually can give you multiple time slots, which we'll talk about a little bit more later. Overall, this should make scheduling exams for test takers much simpler in the future. That's definitely a good advantage. Now, the third point they give out, which you probably haven't thought of, it's quite interesting, is they say they're doing this to be more environmentally friendly. Because currently they're printing thousands of exam papers each year, and then they have to distribute those exam papers globally across their 192 exam locations. So that's a lot of cost in printing and a lot of cost in transporting those exam papers. Another concern for distributing those exam papers globally is it could potentially leak. Right, you're distributing to 192 testing locations across the globe. What if someone find out about the content of the exam papers, right? Okay, so those are the 3 reasons they give out as to why they're going through this major change. But as someone in finance, as someone taking the CFA program, what do you think is something they didn't mention, which could be a really big advantage? Is what? As you probably thought about this, is to increase their profitability, right? CFA is still an organization or a company. They want to increase their revenue. They want to cut down cost and increase profitability, which is what most companies should do anyway. And CFA is teaching this in their financial reporting, equity analysis, fixed income analysis, right? To teach us how we can analyze company, how companies should be more profitable. And they are practicing what they're preaching, right? They are doing exactly the same thing. They are cutting down costs. They are trying to increase profitability by increasing the availability of exams and increasing testing locations from 192 locations to 400 testing locations. And they also, by making the exam shorter, which we'll talk about later on, and saving the cost on printing papers and distributing those papers globally, they can cut down cost. Now, initially, they probably need to put on some investment, like investment in computers or tablets or iPads, but in the long run, they should be able to increase profitability. Now, something relating to this, many people have been asking is, are they going to roll it out to level 2 and level 3? Now, officially, they say not at this moment, but we also always need to have this forward thinking. Personally, I think if level 1 is going to be successful, very likely they're going to roll it out to level 2 and level 3 because the hardware is already there. It's just as a matter of swapping out different question sets. So why do they choose to start with level 1? Well, one is this is a big change, right? We're talking about from 192 locations to 400 locations, from paper-based to computer-based. So a lot of disruptions. So they want to just do a pilot project on level 1. And 2, we mentioned before, level 1 is by far where we have the most test takers, right? In our last video, we mentioned from 200 people who want to become CFA charter holders, how many will actually become CFA charter holders. And a lot of people, after they take level 1 of the exam, they will stop. They will not take level 2 and level 3. So it makes sense to start with level 1 because this is where we're going to see most of the test takers, and this is where most of the cost cutting is going to take place. Okay, now let's talk about how is this going to impact you in 5 ways. We call it the 5 shocks. So make sure you listen to this and be prepared early on. Now, before we go through those 5 shocks, let's talk about the CFA curriculum. A lot of students, fellows have been asking, is the curriculum going to be different in 2020 December, and is it going to be different next year in 2021? To make things simple, to minimize disruption after COVID postponement and the change to CBT, CFA Institute decided to have the same curriculum for 2020 and 2021. So basically all basing on the current 2020 curriculum. So you don't have to worry about you have to study for extra content next year. Now, so 2022, we're probably going to see a lot of change because there's no change in the last 2 years from 2020 to 2022. So 2022, there's probably going to be a lot of change. So if you want to avoid that, make sure you take it before 2022. Okay, now let's go through those 5 shocks or how these changes will affect you in 5 ways. Take a look at this comparison chart. We'll give you a few seconds to look at this, and then we're going to delve into some of the major points to see what does those actually mean to you? Is it going to make the test more challenging? Is it going to make the test a little bit easier? Okay, let's talk about a few good points. Number one, we already sort of mentioned this change is going to make scheduling for the CFA exam a lot easier. So originally you got 2 times, now you got 4 times a year for level 1, and you can do it within a 7-day period. So they're probably going to give you multiple time slots. So if you like working in the morning, then you can choose a morning slot. If you like working or performing in the afternoon, then you can choose the afternoon slots. Okay, number 2, which could also be a benefit, is you're probably going to see less people in each exam sitting because the exams are more spread out in 4 times a year and then multiple time slots within a 7-day period. And also they're expanding from 192 locations to 400 locations. So taking an exam is going to be probably less crowded and less noisy. And that should also reduce the risk of spreading diseases. Okay, number 3, they reduced the number of questions from 240 questions down to 180 questions. They basically reduce it by 25%. Now, what does that mean? Does it mean you don't have to study as hard because there are less questions? Probably not, because it's still based on the same curriculum. They're just giving you less questions to test you out, which means luck will play a more important role. So it's actually more challenging. You have to allow yourself to focus on all the learning outcome statements or the bullet points to making sure whatever you study is also what's being tested. Right? We often find this scenario where after people taking a test, they say, oh, they test me on the things I didn't study. Whatever I studied for and prepared for actually didn't get tested out. So by reducing the questions, this will happen more and more often. So make sure when you study, make sure it's comprehensive enough. Number 4, they also did a change to exam time to make it shorter. So originally it was 2 sessions, a morning session for 3 hours and afternoon session for 3 hours, for a total of 6 hours. After the change, it's 1 session for 2 hours, 15 minutes, 2 sessions together, 4 hours and 30 minutes. So they basically decreased the exam taking time by 25%. So the time allotted for each question is still the same. You still have 90 seconds per questions. Now, this could be a good thing because a lot of people have been saying the CFA exam is very long, right? It's long, tiring, tedious. It's 6 hours of exam time. And then if you add all the other hours into it, it's probably 8 to 9 hours. It's very tiring. So now it's down to 4.5 hours. But what you have to notice is the risk time in between is also shorter. Originally, you have an hour to about 2 hours of lunch time. You can go out, have lunch. And for myself, I even do a little nap to make sure I regain the focus. So now with 30 minutes, you really don't have that much time to rest in between those 2 sessions. So it could be actually more tiring. So you have to train yourself to, can you take a break effectively in 30 minutes? You have to start training yourself for that. Now, number 5 is personally, I think looking at a screen is more tiring than looking at papers because screen has radiations, they give you this light, it makes your eyes tire faster. And also it's not that convenient to circle things and start doing calculations right away. You're probably going to experience when you look at the exams on a computer, you see the time passes faster and you don't have as much time for each question. So that's something you have to start practicing. Basically looking at a screen while doing some calculations on paper, can you do as accurately and as fast? And also training yourself to be able to looking at a screen and without being so tired. Okay, that's it for today, guys. Relating to CFA reforms, what is your thoughts, views, and ideas? Do you think this is a good thing? Do you think it's a bad thing? Feel free to leave your comments below. Now, on our journey to financial freedom, we need to form some good habits. So why don't we start with the following 3 little habits. If you haven't done so, make sure you subscribe to this channel so you will never miss another pie in the sky. Give this video a thumbs up and share with your little buddies, fellows who you're probably taking the exam together and you probably discussed similar topics or ideas. Money so tasty, retire so early. Until next time, remember, you're freer than you think.